Both Claire and Michael seem to be impressed by her, so they end up hiring her as their nanny. As they are chatting in the other room, the cunning Peyton pretends that she found the earring in little Joey's mouth. Claire apologizes for being careless, but Michael tells her that it's not a big deal. The following day, Peyton moves into the Bartell residence officially. She has brought along a wind chime as a gift, which Claire hangs outside her son's room. Peyton is then given a comfortable room near the basement, which receives plenty of sunlight. That night, after everyone has fallen asleep, she sneaks out of the basement and heads to Joey's room. With a devious look on her face, she grabs a pillow, and just when it seems like she is going to kill Joey, she places the pillow right above him, covering the baby monitor. Then, in a shocking turn of events, she grabs the baby, sits on a chair, and starts breastfeeding it. Now that there is a nanny to take care of the kids, Claire begins the construction of her greenhouse. Several workers have arrived at her backyard, and Solomon is helping out too. One night, Claire is getting ready to go out with her husband and friends for dinner. She can't choose the right dress, so Peyton gives her some good suggestions. But when Claire goes to choose her shoes, Peyton sees this as the perfect opportunity to spoil Claire's day by secretly staining her favorite dress, and Claire is disappointed upon noticing it. After a while, Michael arrives with his friends, the Cravens. The husband, Marty, is instantly blown away by Peyton's beauty, and he can't stop looking at her. However, his wife, Marlene, appears to be a clever one, and she starts looking at the nanny with suspicious eyes. Claire then tells Michael about her dress, and after the couples leave for dinner, Peyton is left in charge of the kids. That night, she lets Emma watch a horror movie, something which is forbidden in the house. When the kid becomes comfortable enough with her, she reveals that Marlene and her dad grew up together, and they used to be a couple. She also admits to being bullied at school by a boy named Roth. Roth has warned her to remain silent, or else she's dead meat. Elsewhere at the dinner, Marlene jokingly tells Claire that she shouldn't let a beautiful woman take a power position in the house. She is obviously referring to Peyton, but Claire simply laughs it off. As the days pass by, Peyton continues sneaking up to Joey's room and breastfeeding. She takes great pleasure in doing so, as it gives her the feeling of motherhood. One morning, she also goes to Emma's school to help her out. In front of several students, she confronts the bully, Roth, and twists his hand painfully. She threatens him that if he bothers Emma again, she will rip his head off, and the boy promises to stay away from Emma. The following morning, as Claire tries to breastfeed her infant baby, it refuses to latch on, and this confuses her as Joey was always excited to drink her milk. Later, she has a chat with Peyton, revealing that she and her husband stayed up all night to type his proposal. Michael then shows up with a proposal letter in hand, and says that he's going to FedEx to post it, as the document must reach his superiors by tomorrow. Claire offers to post it for him, so that he can reach his office on time. Afterwards, she takes Peyton to a greenhouse where she volunteers. Claire reveals that she has been working here for the past 7 years, due to her love of plants and vegetation. As Claire is busy watering the greenhouse, Peyton cunningly steals the proposal letter from her bag. She then goes to the bathroom and tears it off, after which she lets out a violent outburst. Later, Claire drives to FedEx and tries to post the letter, but fails to find it. This sends her into a state of panic, and her asthma resurfaces. She manages to calm herself down using her inhaler, but Peyton observes everything. She now knows another weakness of Claire. That evening, Claire profusely apologizes to her husband as her mistake has cost him dearly, but despite everything that happened, he still forgives her. Days later, Peyton shows up at Michael's office with Joey. She talks to him in private and suggests that they throw a surprise party for Claire on her birthday. According to her, Claire has been very upset because of the proposal thing, so they should try to lift her morale, and Michael promptly agrees to the birthday surprise. In the next scene, as Peyton is breastfeeding Joey as usual, Solomon catches her in the act. This traumatizes him, and he realizes that she is evil. As a result, the bitch confronts him alone, and asks if he likes seeing her. She calls him a retard, and warns him to stay away from her, or else she will wrongfully frame him. Poor Solomon is terrified of her, but he repeatedly says, "I won't let you hurt them." That evening, as he is about to depart for home, the Bartles surprise him with a new bicycle. This almost reduces him to tears, as no one has even been so kind to him. Later, Peyton suddenly tells Claire that she notices something inappropriate about the way Solomon touches Emma. Claire believes he would never do such a thing, despite her emerging suspicions. Some days later, as Claire is working on her greenhouse, Peyton comes to her, saying the baby monitor is not working. She suspects that the batteries have run out, and suggests Claire check if Solomon has some batteries in his tool bag, so Claire goes to retrieve them. Unfortunately, when she goes through his stuff, she is shocked to find Emma's underpants there. This devastates Claire and she starts attacking Solomon, while Peyton gives him a satisfied look. In the aftermath, the poor guy is fired from his job and taken away by his organization. Little Emma is heartbroken by his departure, and she refuses to talk to her mom. As the days pass, Emma becomes even more distant from her mother. She spends most of her time with her nanny, while the nanny tells her that her mommy doesn't like Solomon very much. One morning, Marlene arrives with some goods for Claire. As Peyton helps unload them, her eyes fall on Marlene's lighter, which gives her a devious plan. Meanwhile, Marlene notices the wind chime and asks what that annoying noise is, but when she learns that Peyton gifted it, she changes her demeanor and says it is very charming. That night, Marlene and Michael meet after work to discuss the guest list for the upcoming surprise party. Peyton already knows about this since she is the one who came up with the plan, and she indirectly starts hinting to Claire that her husband might be having an affair with Marlene. She deliberately asks Claire what Michael is doing so late at the lab. That night, Michael arrives very late, and he even has cigarette odor coming from him. Claire finds it very suspicious because Marlene is a heavy smoker. She angrily asks where he had been, to which he asserts that he was busy working in his office. Some days later, she goes to the laundry with her daughter. To her utmost shock, the laundryman finds Marlene's lighter in Michael's coat. This is obviously Peyton's doing, and Claire quickly comes to the conclusion that Michael is cheating on her with Marlene. Devastated, she returns to her car with tears in her eyes. Upon reaching home, the little girl asks her to come to the other room, but Claire rudely tells her to go upstairs. Just then, Michael shows up, all dressed up, so Claire wastes no time and angrily accuses him of having sex with Marlene. When she starts shouting, he finally reveals that he was only planning for the surprise birthday party. He then shows her the other room, where several people are waiting for her with a cake. Turns out today is Claire's birthday, but it has been ruined because everyone has heard her outburst. The next morning, we see Claire in a very depressed state. Despite all that has happened, the understanding Michael still supports her. Here Claire expresses her doubts at the nanny, as everything bad has been happening since her arrival. Unfortunately, their conversation is overheard by Peyton via the baby radio, making her furious. Claire proposes that they go on a family trip for some days without the nanny. To stop them from going, Peyton decides to end Claire once and for all. She sneaks into the greenhouse before sunrise and tampers with the equipment in such a way that if anyone opens the door, the entire glass will fall on them. Following this, we are taken to Marlene's office, and it turns out she's a real estate agent. As she is going through some properties, her attention is caught by the late Dr. Mott's house, where the same wind chime is hanging. This makes her suspicious, so she decides to delve deeper into his profile. Using the help of the internet, she obtains various images of him. In one of them, she shockingly finds Peyton mourning at his funeral. Realizing that she has come here for revenge, Marlene hurriedly calls the Bartell residence, looking for Claire, but the latter has gone to the greenhouse for her volunteer work. Unaware of this, Marlene rushes to the Bartell residence, where she finds Peyton. She accuses her of being an imposter, threatening to expose her secret to everyone. She demands to know where Claire is, and Peyton guides her to the greenhouse. Unfortunately, as soon as Marlene opens the door, "Where?" the entire glass shatters and falls on her. Now that Marlene is out of the way, Peyton proceeds with her original plan, where she deliberately empties all of Claire's inhalers. The evil nanny then goes for a walk with the baby, as if she wasn't home when the incident happens. Later, when Claire arrives home and checks into the greenhouse, she is horrified to find the lifeless body of Marlene. This immediately gives her an asthma attack, and she struggles for air. She rushes inside the house and calls 911, but is unable to speak. At this point, Claire tries to use her inhaler, but Peyton's plan is successful. She tries to find another one, but finds it empty too. This overwhelms her and she ends up passing out on the porch. There is no one around to help her and it appears that she's going to die. But fortunately, the cops have tracked her location, and they rescue her in the nick of time. Marlene's body is also found in the greenhouse, and the entire thing is ruled out as an accident, while the nanny acts like she just got home. As Claire recuperates in the hospital, Peyton tries to seduce Michael at home. She seductively wipes his wet body with a towel and hints at getting intimate, but he vehemently refuses, claiming that there's only one woman in his life. After a few days, Claire is released from the hospital and she returns home with her family. As they drive away in their car, we see Solomon following them on his bicycle. In the next scene, we see that Peyton has decorated the baby room with wallpaper. Here Claire is still confused about why Marlene was looking for her right before her death. Desperate to find answers, she goes to her workplace and talks to her assistant. The man gives her some papers, which Marlene was observing before she abruptly left the office. Claire goes through them one by one, and comes across Dr. Mott's property. Suspecting that this house has the answers she needs, she drives all the way there. Upon arrival, she sets up a meeting with a real estate agent and takes a tour inside. During this, Claire is surprised to discover that the wallpaper in Joey's room is the same as in Dr. Mott's baby's room, and it is here that she realizes Peyton is Mrs. Mott. Up next, Claire reaches home, and the first thing she does is she punches Peyton hard in the face, and explains to Michael about her reality, and the two order her to leave the place. Peyton requests to gather her belongings, but the couple asserts that she must leave now. Once she departs, Claire suspects that Peyton rigged the greenhouse to kill her. Fearing that there are more booby traps in the house, the two decide to relocate to a hotel for the time being. That night, as they are packing their belongings, Michael hears opera playing from the basement. When he goes to check, Peyton shows up and strikes him in the head, causing him to fall down the stairs and break his legs. After this, when Claire is calling the police, the psycho widow goes after Claire, and she manages to knock her out with a blow to the back. Up next, she goes upstairs to kidnap the kids, but little Emma outsmarts her, and locks her in a room instead. The girl immediately takes the baby, and hides in the closet. Soon after, Peyton eventually manages to break free by destroying the door with an iron rod. But by the time she's out, the kids are gone. After a bit of looking around, she is surprised to find Solomon escorting them out of an attic window. Turns out he was keeping an eye on them all along. Peyton tries to attack him, but Claire also arrives in the room with a knife. The two then fight for a while, and using Solomon's help, Claire manages to throw her out of the window. This results in Peyton crashing against the sharp fence, finally leading to her death. In the aftermath, Claire apologizes to Solomon and asks him to hold her baby. He is scared to do so, but she assures him that she trusts him. The movie ends as they head downstairs to Michael, while police sirens wail in the background.